I have annihilated everything else so harshly that yes, the last remaining thing is the liquidity, which Bitcoin is the king of, 100%. If you need to place a $100 million sell order and get it filled, you're going to do way better getting that filled on Bitcoin than any other cryptocurrency, period. I believe that, right? I believe in the order book thickness. I believe that it has the best regulatory certainty. I believe that it has the best counterparties with CME in the United States. I believe that the developers are smart and they work hard. There's a lot of really good things about Bitcoin, which is why it's the biggest bag I hold, right? I believe in all that. Now let's talk about how important liquidity really is, okay? You sent a couple test transactions and some Lightning transactions. I got to think that the amount of liquidity that it would like be required in the system to support you as a user is maybe $20, right? And I think what you'll find is, since only 2.8 million wallets have $1,000 in them, that the vast majority of users, in fact, don't need much liquidity at all because they're not placing giant orders at all, which means they don't mind the bid-ask spread and they're not going to get a lot of slippage, right? So it's fun to brag about that, and I do brag about it when I go on stage to support Bitcoin and say nice things about it, which I just did in Malta, right? I just called out fake Satoshi on stage and let everyone know what a fraud he was, and let people know who the real Bitcoin was and protect it against attackers inside and out. I'm more than happy to do that. I'm also a realist. So I don't let other people say untrue things about the currency to help it or to hurt it, right? I like the realistic perspective.
Sure, but I
You
don't think
don't need liquidity. You don't need it, and truthfully, I don't need it, and holders don't need it because they're not even transacting, they're not even selling. So this idea that somehow the liquidity...
I think you're totally wrong there. I'm
Bro,
sorry.
if you're a holder, you're
Let me
not selling.
explain.
What are you talking about? That's the definition of
Let
holding.
me explain. So there is a fundamental, like if you read Ludwig von Mises' Theory of Money and Credit, there's a specific section, I can't remember it exactly off the top of my head, but he's saying essentially it's there might be different media of exchange, and there will be fundamentally different degrees of salableness. And this, let me just see if I can find the exact quote. Here it is. Here it is. Okay, so he's saying there would be an inevitable tendency for the less marketable of the series of goods used as media of exchange to be one by one rejected until at last only a single commodity remained, which was universally employed as a medium of exchange, in a word, money. Okay, so what he's getting at there is he's suggesting that, you know, even if there's a slight liquidity advantage for one coin over another, it will self-reinforce to the point where the more liquid one wins. And that is why that is the most important thing when we talk about the salableness of Bitcoin and why Bitcoin is superior to all of the shitcoins is it has that. And why does it have that? Because fundamentally it's got a real long-term built up stability to it, and it's building over time. So that's fundamentally how I would think of it. Okay. But what's your view?
So you just stabbed yourself either in the back or the front with your own argument again.
Go on.
So you say liquidity matters, yes?
Yes.
Okay, and you say the most liquid coin wins, yes?
Okay, so let me explain that. It's longer term. I think yeah. Because again,
start that hedging, bro. Move that goalpost, man. I'm ready.
Well, I'm trying to explain it in a way that's like, you know, I can't like hedge I can't explain every little complexity, right?
This is a big thing. This is not a small thing. But I'll let you to do your thing. Go ahead. Liquidity matter. Long-term liquidity is where we left off.
Yeah, right. But what I'm getting at there is I'm not saying necessarily Bitcoin goes to 100%, everything else goes to zero overnight. I'm saying longer term, that is the tendency we would expect to see. Whether the final, whether not that there's ever a final state of the market, but it's likely that it's going to be winner takes most, if not winner takes all. Now, there may be some other, you know, if you think like 80-20 Pareto, right, then maybe Bitcoin takes like that 80 or 85%, 90%, whatever, and then there'll be a bunch of shitcoins in that 5 or 10%, whatever that little leftover bit is, right?
Are you just describing Gresham's law to me, or like, I mean...
So, actually, I'm describing more like Thiers' law here. So, Thiers' law is think of that like the opposite of Gresham's law. So Gresham's law is often incorrectly stated as bad money drives out good. But the actual correct, if you want to get more precise about it, is actually when one money is artificially overvalued by the government relative to another. That's actually what drives that Gresham's law result. And it is, in fact, one specific example of a generalized problem with price controls of when imposed by the government. Now, Thiers' law is more like the other way around. It's like good money drives out bad. And we can think of that
They're
more just
actually
like
both
what
the
would
same
happen in a
thing.
world where there was no legal tender laws, right? And so it kind of brings back to the Austrian economics argument around why legal tender laws can be so bad for society, is because they can enable the government to push everyone onto a fiat money standard as opposed to
So,
commodity money standard, which is what we had in the
hold on.
past.
I have to jump in because we've gone so far deep here. One, those two laws are actually equal. One looks at what's money, the money that is, it's just a framing error. Gresham's law states that bad money drives out good if you look at the money that's in use, because people would rather hold the good money and use the shit money. And it requires a peg, as you said, which introduces a mispricing. However, if you stop looking at what's left in the market and you look at what the person prefers to hold, then good money drives out bad in his wallet, but bad money drives out good in the market, right? So they're both the same statement. It's just whether you're looking at what's in the market or what's in the holder's wallet, right? Further, legal tender laws in the United States did not drive out other currencies. You can pay in whatever the fuck you want. You can pay in euros if you want. You can pay in Visa, PayPal dollars if you want. You can pay in Bitcoin if you want. You can pay in gold if you want. You can pay in silver if you want. That is not the effect that making legal tender laws had whatsoever. So we went really deep down that path, but we kind of left the door open and didn't handle the door, which was, you say liquidity matters, and you say the most liquid coin should win, which is why Bitcoin's better than all the shit coins, because it's more liquid, right?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Well, now I'm going to curb stomp your argument. What's more liquid, Bitcoin or the US dollar?
So again, I foresaw that. That wasn't an unknown objection in my view.
Well,
right?
we could have skipped this whole thing, and you could have avoided bringing up the liquidity argument, because now I'm going to use your argument against you, right? So you're using the bigger liquidity is better, so shitcoins suck, and I'm going to use the same exact thing, and that's why USD is better than Bitcoin. And now you've got to retract the argument and stop using it because it's a bad argument, which is your argument.
No, I think of it more like it's a combo thing. It's liquidity plus having a censorship-resistant aspect of it.
Cash
right?
is censorship-resistant.
Obviously,
the US dollar is more censorship-resistant than Bitcoin. You'll lose that one too.
No.
Yes.
I'm sorry. That's straight up wrong. I disagree with that. Sorry.
What are you talking about? Why do you think drug users use the US dollar to launder all their fucking money, and they don't use Bitcoin? Because it works better. Vastly better.
Well,
and it has more liquidity.
Are there AML and sanctions laws? Are there FATCA and CRS laws? Are there tax reporting laws? All sorts of these laws that exist within the USD world. But if you're operating in a Bitcoin context, those things, and again, if you're operating in what I call a Bitcoin native context, right? Obviously, you're not leaving your Bitcoins at the bank, right, at an exchange. Then FATCA and AML and sanctions, all these rules don't sort of apply to you in that sense.
They also don't apply to human beings transacting cash with each other. All right. In Australia, they do, because they passed extra laws that says you can just not give this much cash to someone else anywhere. But in the United States, that's not the fucking case. If you want to give someone $200,000 cash for their house, you can walk up to them and hand them $200,000 cash for their house, period. All right? So in the United States, the things that you're saying, they are not true. They're inaccurate. You're saying things that are false. And I'm pointing it out to you. US dollar is more anonymous than Bitcoin is. When you use Bitcoin, you leave a trail. When you use cash, there ain't no fucking trail, right? Which is the reason.
When I said, hold on, I said censorship resistant, not anonymous, right? I mean, when you use the US dollar, somebody can censor your transaction.
No, they can't.
If you want to send it digitally.
No. Digitally. Well, guess what? There's enough liquidity in just the printed dollars to exceed your market cap anyway. So we don't have to talk about digitally. You're losing the liquidity argument. You're losing the anonymity argument. You're losing the censorship resistant argument. They just also happen to have so much extra liquidity in their non-censorship resistant part. And to tell you the truth, actually sending wires appears to be pretty fucking censorship resistant, because everyone that gets scammed with romance frauds and 419 Nigerian scams, they don't get their fucking money back. That money stays gone, and the scammers get to keep it. So I'm not exactly sure why you think that there's not censorship resistance in the US dollar in wire transfers when the scammers get to keep all the fucking money they steal anyway. I mean, isn't it obvious that it's censorship resistant? Because the criminals get to keep the money? It's very obvious. Curb, stomping, everything you say, all of it. Except the shit I agree on. I do agree on some.
No, not really.